Get the fuck out.
Siemi Bakayoko, oh yeah. Samina mina, Edward Mende, Samina mina, Sam Sadate. He comes from Senegal.
And I think going out and get Saul was the top transfer of the market for Chelsea.
Chesney could have been in the shower smoking a cigarette like he was at Arsenal, and we still would not have scored.
My rants have been fueled by Scott. Don't get it twisted.
Big Rom. Man, fuck you.
In Roman we trust, right?
You and me are going to have a battle royale about Jorginho and diving.
The flag stays down!
On After Dark, baby.
Don't do it. Fuck, did we talk for an hour and 20 minutes about that?
One thing that I was gonna bring up, but then Collins, you started getting into your outro. Bournemouth just got bought by an American ownership group.
Michael B. Jordan.
Yep.
I can't wait for the Premier League to start having divisions and division winners and playoffs with all the American owners.
And no pro rel style of everything.
Yeah. Super League 2.0.
Yep.
And All-Star game.
Yeah. Don't forget the All-Star game.
Hey, do you guys hear this this latest conspiracy theory I'm going to share with you?
Oh boy.
Oh, Collins is here for it.
So I noticed this a little bit when I would hear, like, it would be Argentina versus, let's just call it Saudi Arabia, right? It would be it's Lionel Messi in Argentina versus Saudi Arabia. Like, they wouldn't name a second player, right? Because there's no one that kind of holds the candle to, until this World Cup, this final, which was, and Kylian Mbappe of France square off and whatever, right? Remind me, who does Messi play for?
PSG. Argentina.
Who does Mbappe play for?
PSG.
Who is Mbappe? Who owns PSG?
Qatari Investment Group.
Bingo.
Fuel to the fire, my friend.
I will say, and I didn't get to this in my rant about Fox Sports, but when we played it, when it was the Russian World Cup, I remember Mike Tirico at the start of the thing did like a 30-minute, we're here, but this is how shitty of a country Russia is, like fuck Russia kind of thing. We didn't get that in this. No one on Fox talked about anything in regards to Qatar and human rights violations and anti-LGBT and everything else that's been talked about in this World Cup. Fox didn't bring it up at all, from what I remember, and I watched just about every match except for I think 4. I missed 4 matches.
I'm not even going to comment on that, because the comment I have is going to be poorly timed. So no comment. I plead the fifth.
I ain't seen nothing.
Yep.
I feel like there was very strong direction against it, and I don't know if how the whole Russia thing played out from like a advertising and sponsorship and coverage standpoint, got talked about, but there's never been a World Cup that's been under this amount of scrutiny prior to the thing starting. I mean, everyone knows that Russia isn't the best of nations and is, has been accused of certain things, but it's not to this level. We haven't ever seen it at this level. So I feel like there had to have been very strong, like, you will not talk about this, or very serious, like, things will happen.
The thing I found most interesting in the whole thing was, Alexi Lalas for months has been talking about, maybe Qatar is not a great place for this World Cup to be played. in his typical Alexi Lalas way of saying it, right? And then they had him going out just about every day during or for pregame, you know, showing how great of a nation Qatar is, you know, visiting XYZ or talking with this minister in the government, or I don't know. It came off very much like take some money and shut up kind of deal. And from Alexi Lalas, I'm a little disappointed for how for normally how against the grain he is, how much he, you know, he'll just say whatever's on his mind. He doesn't give a fuck.
All right, fine, I'll say it.
Yes, thank you.
Rest in peace, Grant Wall.
Oh, did you see the cause got released
By who?
by his wife?
Hmm.
Burst blood vessel.
He had an aneurysm, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But the world.
I Collins, you of all people, the conspiracy theorist that you are, I'm not gonna let that one. I'm not gonna let that one go.
I feel bad.
Right? Like it has to be in the back of your mind, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things, and that's, as we're talking about this, unfortunately, it comes to the forefront of my mind is like, well, I wouldn't say how coincidental is it that something like that happens when, you know, you look at it from a US perspective, and obviously ESPN did their documentary about it, but it, like, you almost have to think that something else was at play. Obviously with him wearing, it was either a shirt or an armband, I can't remember.
Shirt.
And that was for his brother. I don't know. It's hard to see that as a coincidence. It's very difficult knowing the country that he was in and knowing the history of that and how they have historically, I'm not saying that they do now, I'm just saying historically how they have handled stuff like that. It is very tough to not keep that in the back of your head, especially when it comes to Fox Sports and somebody like Alexi Lalas, who I completely agree. He says whatever the hell he wants, but I don't know. It's I think it's a very fine line.
I feel bad talking about.
I do too.
Talking about
I do too.
Guy who recently passed, and
I know that's why I was like, I don't want to talk about it, but I just wanted to get that out. I'm not saying whatever the cause was or anything like that. I'm just saying from an American perspective, it has to be somewhere in your mind.
What I will say about it, not linked to, you know, his cause of death or anything like that, but two things. Number one, you know, I run the podcast Twitter here. I'm scanning Twitter a lot. I don't do a lot of work during the day.
Hey, make sure that Lennox knows that.
Yeah. The amount of seeming bots that appeared after Grant Wall's death was astonishing. You know, you see the exact same comment on every single post talking about how, oh, shouldn't jump to conclusions. Here's a history of how great Qatar is. Like, okay, I mean that doesn't help your case. But then number two, how quickly that news story died.
Yep.
So poor phrasing there, but how quickly it went away. We don't hear about it anymore. World Cup's over. We're not going to hear about it again. But that when it broke, that was a huge story. Huge. And then nothing, then silence. And that's something that always makes me suspicious. When you see something as big as that, all of a sudden just out of the news cycle, it's not great.
Even like the fact that his wife came out and said what she said about what the cause of death was. I asked some of my colleagues who had brought it up. We were in Oklahoma City having some beers after our meeting, and I said, "Did you hear what happened?" And they were like, "No." And that, like, the whole, like, usually when stories like that happen, then there's a follow-up when the cause of death gets revealed, things like that. It felt very under the rug and shushed. That's to your point, Collins. It went away extremely quickly, and that's deliberate from the media standpoint. I think media has a lot of control over what we think about and what's on our minds, and if they choose to keep bringing things up, then it kind of keeps getting talked about. That's sort of just how it works. And it went away very quick, and no one's really asking those questions anymore.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a very tough thing to comprehend. The only, I'm not even going to call it an explanation. I'm not even going to call it a reason. The only thought that I have as to maybe why is because soccer, as we call it in America, is not as well perceived as any of the other big four sports that we have. I will, rest in peace, Craig Sager. That was a thing for a long time. Soccer is not that big in the US as it is in world football. We as Americans, as fans of soccer, we love it. We know who to listen to. We know who we trust reports from and everything like that. And I think it's tough because you have to kind of understand the environment that you're in. If this was 2026 in the US / Joint Nations World Cup, oh, this would be a huge story. Massive. But because of, and I'm assuming here, I'm not saying this like I know everything, I'm just assuming, because he wore a shirt and because of the country and their laws or their ways of handling certain things, you're limited to do whatever you can. And I think that was the limitation. It wasn't a big thing. Do I fault the American media for not broadcasting it more? I do. But again, it's not one of the big four sports. And that's an issue, right? That's the biggest issue with trying to grow the game in the US, is that soccer is not a big enough sport in the US compared to NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL. It's not big enough. They barely talk NHL to a certain extent, right? Like, I'm a Chicago Blackhawks fan. They barely talk about them because they are not good. However, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Charles Barkley was bashing the fact that they still have to talk about the Lakers when their team has been doing shit and they have to talk about LeBron all the time. That is the biggest thing, is you focus on one player or you focus on one thing and that's all you have to talk about. I blame the American media for not making this a bigger story than what it actually should have been.
Matt, you bring up an interesting point there about American media and top 4 sports and all that, because soccer has passed hockey. Like statistically, it is now like in the top 4. But I think, not to change topics like at all, but I think it's an interesting thing to look at is, why isn't soccer treated like a top 4 sport in America? I know domestic league isn't great. MLS isn't great. US men's national team isn't, they're okay. I think there's a lot going on there as to why it's not covered. And I don't know how we change that.
Yeah,
I think it's
go ahead, Parks.
I think it's a simple answer, Collins. I think it's just because the domestic league is what it is. I don't think they feel it's as profitable or necessary to talk about leagues that aren't in America. And I know that that's not true for all sports and whatnot, but like, there's too much going on in the world of soccer. And it's like, there are a lot of US fans that follow the Bundesliga, La Liga, and the Premier League, but to cover all of that seems like it's going to eat a big chunk of like a ESPN hour, and they don't want to dedicate it because they don't want to give up what they have already in place. But so if the domestic league was better, I think that it would solve a lot. A lot of people don't know who to cheer for when they first start getting into soccer, and that's kind of the beauty of it a little bit, and it's kind of part of what makes it unique for us as fans. But I think a lot of media companies, I'm just going to call ESPN for what it is, I think ESPN doesn't think that the average American gives a shit because they don't cheer for the teams that are in their hometown, and so it's not close to them, it's not close to home here, and so therefore it's over there, and we kind of keep it at arm's length distance.
Is that a generation gap thing?
No. The only time you ever see MLS on, we'll call it Sports Center, is if there is a worldie of a goal and it is a top 10.
Wayne Rooney, DC United.
That's the only time you will see that. Yeah, they have their spin-offs or podcasts like ESPN FC or the Hercules Gomez pod or whatever he does. Those are the only things you actually hear about. The World Cup, they barely covered it. It still wasn't a big deal. Everything was about NBA. Everything was about, MLB signings and free agency and all that shit. NHL and blah, blah, blah. And obviously NFL, because we're in that season, and the American public love, football on Sundays and everything like that. To me, the American media needs to adjust and understand that if you want to grow the game, you have to support it. And right now, nobody is supporting it. As far as MLS, nobody is supporting it unless you actually watch the game. There might be a game on FS1 or FS2. Maybe on ESPN2 you'll have a game or something like that. But they don't do a good enough job. And I understand that hockey has a quote unquote global reach because there are Canadian teams involved. But obviously MLS does too, but not to the extent of NHL fans. I don't know. To me, it's a very weird dynamic, and I think there's a bigger issue at hand. I mean, the last time I saw highlights from an MLS game, not on the top 10, were the LAFC and who are they playing in the final? Galaxy?
No. Somebody out of the East.
Philadelphia.
Thank you. Yep.
That was the only coverage I saw of any MLS game where they were going through highlights of the entire game. And probably the only reason is because it was a final and because Gareth Bale was playing. That's it.
I think it's absolutely generational. I think Collins excuses the metaphor, but I've said it before. I think a baseball fan dies every day, and I don't think one is born every day. I think baseball as a sport is on the decline, and I think it's sad because I there's a lot of me that likes baseball. I grew up watching baseball, going to games, but it's not a sport that captivates me in any way, shape, or form as a fan. We are raising the next generation. So when we are our parents' age, or when we're in our 50s and 60s and whatnot, our children will have grown up with us as dads watching soccer, and those kids are going to have a influence on what the highlights are like. And a lot of ESPN, what they cater to is the 35 and older demographic, which is older than us. And a lot of that, I know, but a lot of that generation,
2/3 of us,
just about, right? I mean, you're on the cusp.
Next year. Yep.
So, but the and older part, right? Like and up, and then they cater to that generation. Most of that generation still likes football on Sunday, college football on Saturday. They like their NBA, and then they like a bit of a mixed bag of everything else, whatever is popular and whatever is going on at that time. And that's how it's always been. That's been the script. It's going to take those numbers declining to a point where the soccer numbers have been on the rise for years, for all things. I think NBC can prove that with the amount of coverage that the Premier League gets, the numbers that they draw every single week in and out for Premier League coverage. How that gets translated, I don't know, but they're going to be silly to ignore it, because I know more people who are gravitating away from traditional big sports and more into the F1s of the world, more into cycling, more into tennis, more into other sports that are just outside of that norm. And obviously the NFL is still a big behemoth, but I know a lot of parents who are concerned with their kids playing the sport. With all the research that's been done, a lot of people don't want their son to go put on a helmet and go run into people every single day after seeing what it does to your health. So I foresee a world where the NFL doesn't dominate someday. And I think especially, I mean, it's proven on the global scale. It's just whether or not it can translate into the US scale of the realm of how big the sport is. There's no denying the popularity of the World Cup. When Russia's final, I think they estimated 1.2 billion people had eyes on it. It's like a sixth of the world population or seventh of the world population or whatever it is. It's unfathomable that one out of 7 people in the world are watching the same thing at once. The NFL isn't even close to that.
And I agree. I think it is a generational thing. I think it's, like you said, ESPN, to continue to use them, Fox Sports as well. Even though they had the deal for the World Cup, I would say caters to maybe not 35 and older, maybe 40, 39 plus. But it's to the generation before us. I would say we as millennials are leading the charge in terms of soccer fandom with, I don't even know who came after us, Gen Y, something like that, Gen Z, I don't know. But they're learning from us. Like, it's growing because of us. Like, they're seeing what we watch and they're enjoying that. And you look at who runs all these companies, and it's the older generations. It's the generation before us. So I think it's going to take some people from our generation getting into power and some of these media companies for that to change. But then I look at it and I'm like, well, maybe it's just the nationalistic, rednecky part. Sorry to any rednecky people listening to this podcast, but rednecky people, America, like, I'm not going to watch some
America,
and I'm not going to watch some tea drinking field fairies, like that kind of thing. But I had a neighbor who called them that a couple days ago, but it may be that too. Like, I don't want to watch an international league. I don't want to watch, I want to watch something here in America. And MLS does a terrible job. They do a terrible job marketing themselves. Baseball, I know that I can catch it any given night at a certain time, right? Depending on where the game is, I know where I can catch it. I can catch it on my local network. But I can get Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. I can get the Sunday day game on Fox, and I can get the Saturday day game on TBS. Like, I just know all those. NBA, you can get TNT. You're going to get the main game on TNT throughout the week. I don't know about that. I don't watch the NHL. I don't know anything about NHL's national schedule, but
NHL is also on TNT, TBS, and sometimes ESPN, and then ESPN Plus.
But then you look specifically at the NFL. I know I'm going to get the NFC game on Fox.
Your local NFC game.
Yep. And I know I'm going to get the AFC game on CBS. I know I'm going to get Sunday Night Football. I know where I'm going to get Monday Night Football. I know where I'm going to get Thursday Night Football. I know what time those are all going to start.
Mm-hmm.
There's no rhyme or rhythm to how MLS schedules. It's every day of the week. Like, their main day is on Sunday, where they have 3 games spread across 3 networks, and I never know which order it's in. Like, there's just no, it's not destination viewing. Like, I'm not setting aside time like I do for the Premier League. Like, Sunday morning, I know what I'm doing. Saturday morning, I know what I'm doing. MLS, I'm not putting in work to look up who I'm going to watch that weekend when. They need to figure out a schedule where it's like, hey, Saturdays during the summer, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock. These are our slots. Instead of, well, Tuesday through Friday, you might get a game at 10 p.m. You might get a game at 4 in the afternoon. They're not doing themselves any favors. And especially now switching to Apple TV on a subscription plan instead of ESPN Plus.
Oh,
You're going to lose a lot of people. That's the only reason I watched MLS for a while, is because it was free with my ESPN Plus. I'm not going to pay $120 to Apple to watch MLS. I'm just not.
I didn't know they did that. That's not good.
Yeah, that was like two weeks ago. Yeah.
I mean, I have Apple TV, but it's for one specific purpose.
Well, and it's not included in your subscription. It's an add-on. $120 for the season.
On top of Apple TV?
Yep.
Oh my God. Because that's like $10-15 a month on top of that.
Yep.
Oof.
God.
Nope.
It's not the right time to do that. I don't know who at MLS decided that, but it's a terrible idea.
Don Garber.
And I hate to go back to F1 as an argument, but like F1 has their F1 TV package. I don't remember what it costs, but it costs something, right? And you get a lot with that. You can kind of you can watch each driver's perspective. You can listen to driver radios consistently. There's like a lot of feeds. I mean, I could sit here with my 18 monitors, as you guys have seen, and I can watch all different monitors and different looks and be in my happy place, right? But it's also then available on ESPN. I think it's ESPN too, but it's cable TV as well as then the paid subscription is like additional bonus content. It's not, that's 2 degrees. I don't know anything that does that, where it's
MLB does it very similarly. Well, I have it for the White Sox where I pay $10 a month and I get to watch every game, right? But like that's because I don't live in the market.
To be fair, your hat didn't give it away or anything.
but you're paying that fee on top of, you're paying 2 fees.
The MLB has their own app that they run that through.
That's what I mean. Like I've never seen someone do 2 degrees. It's a paid subscription on top of a paid subscription.
Oh, okay.
That's like signing up for HBO and then buying an additional package of HBO on top of the HBO, right? Like super HBO. Mega HBO power, right? Like I've never seen that like further step, because it's always been you either do cable and then an add-on like Peacock, or you do on a paid subscription app basis, like its own kind of third party thing. That's stupid.
So not to switch gears here, but
Go ahead.
are we going to do our best and worst of the World Cup?
Yeah.
Do we want to do, I mean, Collins, I like your idea of an 11, but I don't know if everybody's up for figuring out an 11. Do we want to do like our top 5 and worst 5?
Players, teams, moments. What are you looking for?
I would say players. Players
Okay.
that underwhelmed, players that overwhelmed. I mean, technically they could be the same thing, but
Yeah. Top 5 and not top 5.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in. Matt, I assume that you have lists here.
no, I don't.
No.
No, I don't. I'm gonna kind of go off the cuff,
Okay.
per usual.
What do you want to start with?
I would go with my top 5. I would call them my top 5 underrated players.
Okay.
First one, we've already talked about him, Amrabat, Sofian Amrabat. I finally did find the first name. I would go with him. Like, I want to say Ziyech, but we all know what he could do if he was given a chance to play all the time. So I'm gonna leave him out of this. Vardial. Everybody knew he was good. Nobody knew that he was that good. So I'm all about that. Tyler Adams. I feel like he has to go there. The American in me wants Tim Ream, but like and it's tough because I think he was a lot better than any one of us anticipated that he would be. But I don't know. I'm, like I said, making this up off the cuff, so I'm trying to run through my teams. I thought that who's the guy from Argentina? DePaul?
Nicholas DePaul. Yep.
Yeah. He showed out like crazy. I was a big fan of him. Collins, I will save this one for you because I know you're going to take him, but I've seen what he can do at Brighton Hove Albion, so I already know. So I'm gonna leave that one for you. But I do acknowledge the fact that he did have an outstanding tournament. The other one that I would say, oh boy. El Yamik from Morocco. I really liked him, especially in the quarters against Portugal. He came on in like the dying moments of the game. Maybe it was like the 82nd minute when Saiz had to be taken out. And dude just balled out, and he was like the best young player in Morocco like a few years earlier and stuff like that as a center back, and he was a big force. So I really liked him, and I think definitely a very undervalued player. Honorable mention would be Livakovic.
All right. I agree with a lot of those. Livakovic was number one on my list. I like Parker's idea of like who boosted their stock. Livakovic, again, I said it last week. Chelsea were rumored to have him for $7 million. Not anymore. No.
Oh no.
Add a zero to that.
Yeah. Alexis McAllister.
I save that one for you. He's your boy. I'm not going to take that one.
If Jorginho or Conte or both are going to leave, I would feel comfortable with Alexis McAllister coming in and filling that role in the midfield.
I have a differing opinion on that, but go ahead.
I mentioned earlier, in the tournament, Cody Gakpo was phenomenal for the Dutch. Unfortunately, he couldn't carry that team like an Mbappe or a Messi, but he's very good, especially for a guy who is currently playing in Eredivisie. Like, dude balled out for playing in a league that a lot of people consider to be maybe like the 7th best league in Europe.
If that, yeah.
Hakimi, I think he was already highly regarded, but I think he cemented his status as a top 3, top 5 wingback in the world in this tournament. Him and Ziyech down that right side was dominant.
Mm-hmm.
So I would throw him in there. And then my last one is more of a rebound candidate, but someone who had a great tournament. And that's Antoine Griezmann. He was phenomenal. Not today, but for the rest of the tournament, led the team in assists, was their go-to on free kicks, which they were dangerous at all tournament. For a guy that Barcelona purchased for a crazy amount of money and then basically let back to Atletico for nickels and dimes,
right? Kicked him to the curb.
Yeah, I think Griezmann reasserted himself as a top player. So that's my 5.
Who did Matt have differing opinions on? I'm sorry, I missed that. Who did I miss?
Matt had Tim Ream.
No, yours.
McAllister. If Jorginho and Conte left, my differing of opinion would be he is not a defensive midfielder like those two are.
No, but he's a number 8. He'll be a box to box guy, which is something that we miss.
I think. See, me personally, I think if we were to get rid of a Mason Mount, I think he would fit very well into that role, because Not saying that he would get the ball every time and do whatever, because I think that's overkill for Mason Mount right now. I think that he is creative enough to go forward and play that attacking role, not necessarily be a defensive midfielder like a Conte or a Jorginho. I think he's more attack minded than those two. So maybe it's just comparing him to those two. Like, I understand what you're saying. I think he's more like a more attack minded Kova
Yes,
style player.
Kova is a great comp. I would
Yep.
put him as a Kova.
I would say he's more attack minded and more clinical than a Kova would be. Can he play box to box? Absolutely. But again, we've always talked about this, having two people play the same position, who's going forward, who's not. Then you throw Kova back as more of a defensive holding mid. You let McAllister go up. So sorry, my bad. I'm just saying those two people that you mentioned were, I don't think were comparable.
You could always play RLC and then you get two of the same because he'll just mimic whoever he's next to.
He'll be at right wing back.
He's a ditto.
Yeah.
Nice. You have been watching too much Pokemon on Twitch.
I'm near the end of the Pokedex in the new game, by the way. I'm at like 360.
Nice.
Oh, boy.
All right, Parker.
Also, it's really great. It's really great having a beer fridge. I'm like, ooh, I have an oddball. Ooh, nice.
Hooray!
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the picks that have been said earlier. I did create my own list. There are some overlaps, but just people that impressed me more than I thought were going to, I guess. Tyler Adams, I thought he captained our side very well and he handled himself very well throughout the whole tournament. Cody Gakpo, you already talked about him. Here's where my list differs from y'all's. Theo Hernandez, I thought he, especially in the game today, he caught my eye because on a France team that looked relatively defeated, he was one of the few who was still kind of giving it and keeping them relevant and kind of going for it. So I thought he had a pretty nice tournament. You guys are probably going to hate me for saying these two. Bukayo Saka.
He had a good tournament.
I hate that I like him because he plays for Arsenal. But he is going to be a force. He is going to be he's really good today, and I think he's going to be really good tomorrow, or even better tomorrow. I think he's going to be an absolute stud for that England team. He's creative, he's energetic, he scores goals. He's the real deal. I was really curious to see, and England is a mashup of superstars. I mean, believe it or not, or trust how they play together is for its own debate and argument, but they're an all-star studded cast of who's who in the Premier League and other leagues, and he still stands out. And then the other one is another one of our rivals, which is why I don't like saying it, but Richarlison did catch my eye. Richarlison had a good tournament. He scored some flashy goals. He looked like he played with a lot of fun and a lot of energy. And I know people are going to rip on him for the dancing and stuff and whatnot, but there seemed to be a lot of just enjoyment out of him playing. And, a lot of people, myself included, kind of wrote him off as a backup and a not a great player on that team. He definitely exceeded expectations for me on that team in a big way. And I thought I picked Brazil to go further than they did. I thought Brazil were going to go further than they did. I think it was relatively unfortunate that they went out the way they did, but it would have been cool to see him in more big game moments because I thought he brought big game energy to those moments and he played well and lived up to it.
I just realized I was looking at just the knockout stages only. Parker, if you want, I realize you only went through a couple people on your list. Finish, and then I'll.
No, that was 5. It was Adams, Gakpo. I just didn't talk about him because you guys already talked about him. Adams, Gakpo, Saka, Richarlison, and Theo Hernandez is 5. The other one that my honorable mention, and it's only honorable mention because he's got a super high price tag before the World Cup, but did impress, was Jude Bellingham.
That's a good one.
But yeah, again, he didn't. I don't think he hurt his stock. I don't think he improved his stock. He kind of kept his stock. He had a big price tag on him before this tournament, so it's not like
He
I don't know.
basically lived up to the hype.
Bingo, right? He didn't shy away from the big moment. He's still a young kid, right? I mean, he's still a young dude, and he went out and I think he still impressed a lot of people, like more so than like a Declan Rice did. Even though I thought Declan Rice had a fine World Cup, Mason Mount's stock got hurt, and Kai Havertz's stock got hurt, right? Like players like that, they took a dump a little bit, right? And they just didn't have what their price tag or what their sort of market value would suggest that they had. Jude, he met expectations and did what I thought he had to do to kind of keep that momentum behind his name, where people still really want to sign him. But
Yeah,
that was my 5+1.
He proved his worth.
How about this for an honorable mention? Non-knockout stage team. Jamal Musiala from Germany. 19 years old. And again, only so much you can do. Like he's not somebody who's going to carry a team. But he was the lone bright spot for Germany, just weaving in and out of in a very tough group, weaving in and out of defenders. And again, at 19, I think that's quite the accomplishment.
He did play very well. I can't argue against that. I think one person that we're leaving out is Asuna from Japan. What an absolute monster he was throughout the World Cup. You want to talk about improving stock? Yep.
Yeah.
He was an absolute beast. But no, I completely agree with Musiala. He was the only bright spot out of a team of quote unquote veterans to be on that squad. And it's tough because Germany went out so quick that we didn't get to see him like under the big lights, right? This is all group stage. We didn't get a chance to see him like, okay, let's see what you can do in a, you're in, you advance, you're out, you're done. Like we didn't get a chance to see that. Obviously he plays with Bayern, but I mean, Bayern's going to do Bayern things. I do think that he had a good tournament. I think that's a very good call out.
All right. So we got our tops. What's the next five worst?
Oh. Who underperformed? God, that's a long list.
I could name some teams that underperformed.
All right. Well, we'll start with teams,
easy.
then we'll get to players.
Well, I think I think the teams are easy. Germany, obviously.
Yep.
Denmark,
Mexico.
Spain.
Serbia was supposed to be a dark horse.
Spain.
Yeah. Really, it's based all Belgium.
Yeah. You could throw in Netherlands to an extent.
You can throw in a lot of teams. Like you can throw in USA to an extent.
Nah, no. I wouldn't throw USA into that.
I think you'd throw in Uruguay.
No, only because I loved seeing Luis Suarez cry.
Well, yeah.
Tears of joy from my standpoint.
Just to be a dick, I'm going to say you can throw Italy in there.
Ah, nice.
Jorginho's been working on PKs and falling over the whole time.
Because this was just the finals of the World Cup. The World Cup is a bigger tournament than just this last.
Than the Euros.
Then I'd like to nominate American Samoa.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Hey, don't you talk
And
bad
better.
about Tobago.
I'm throwing them both in there, right? I'm not leaving one out.
Oh, you can throw Qatar on the list too.
Yeah, we're
They-
worst host out of any ever. Yeah. All right. Well, I don't have 5 players. I have 4. So I'm gonna leave my 5th open to whatever you guys say.
All right, what do you got?
I've got Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yep.
I think he had too much off the field stuff going on that it hurt his tournament. Lukaku, he was coming back from injury, but
Stop.
no.
No,
You-
next.
He was coming back from injury, but
Next.
he had those 4 goal opportunities in a row that he missed.
So he was prime Lukaku.
Yeah.
I don't know what the argument is.
Kai Havertz, Mr. scores every time for Germany, but can't do shit in this tournament. And then finally, Rafinha. I thought he was a big 0 for Brazil. And
Parks.
Barcelona.
I don't have much to add here. I don't think I watched enough to be able to comment on individual performances that let me down. I'm kind of scrolling through and I don't got much.
Aiden Hazard.
Belgium in general.
Yeah.
I would throw Aiden Hazard out there. Yeah, go ahead.
I have one that just came to mind with Edward Mendy.
Yeah.
Edward Mendy, his stock is just gone to like 0. It's amazing if we go back and listen to how highly we talked about him as a keeper, then to see him kind of go out and just continue to not put in great performances, it's just been pretty bad. So there's my one.
Yeah, it's a very good one. I would almost throw in Hugo Lloris. He didn't have a lot to do during the tournament, and when he was called upon, wasn't that great, especially when it came down to pens. Anytime it came down to a pen,
He's
was
never been a penalty
shit.
guy.
But still, like I didn't see a ton from him that I would expect out of him. Like, yeah, he'll stand on his head when he plays for Tottenham, but for France, I didn't see the same caliber goalkeeper that I'm used to out of him. So that would be that. I would put that as a very low honorable mention.
Josh Sargent.
No. I would not consider that as an underperformed. He didn't have a ton of chances. He did his job in setting up other players. And it was the entire problem with the US. They couldn't score.
Yeah, and as a striker,
I know.
that's his job. And he didn't do it.
Yeah, but look at every other striker that we have. They don't score.
Yeah, so I mean, collectively, I would say.
Haji Wright scored a goal because it just randomly hit off his foot at the correct angle.
Yeah, I didn't say anything about Haji Wright. I said
I'm just saying. Josh Sargent created more opportunities than scored goals that He created more opportunities that other people were not able to capitalize on that should have. He did his job. He did his job as a quasi hold-up striker.
So he's Timo Werner.
No, Timo's not hold up. He doesn't know where the ball is 90% of the time.
It creates chances.
For other people, not himself. Just saying. Even Timo scores less than 100% of the shots that he takes 100% of the time.
It's a lot of math.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna.
Basically, he doesn't score, even when he does have the opportunity to score.
Yeah, Josh Sargent. All right.
And there were a lot of opportunities to be had, not from just him. So I would not put him in that category. But I do understand the point behind it. For all the hype, Luka Modric, and maybe that's just Fox Sports building him up to be like the savior of Croatia. I didn't think he had that great of a tournament. I'm not saying he had a bad tournament. I don't think he had that great of a tournament where like he was the star or anything like that. Again, that could just be Fox Sports hyping him up like Luka Modric and Croatia and everything like that. I that could be also a very deep honorable mention. Very low in the depth chart.
6'8", 6'8", 7'1", 7'1", 6'3", 6'3", or 7'3", 7'1", 6'9". Modric's tournament.
Again, like it's not bad, but as a former Ballon d'Or winner,
He's 37.
I act like I care. Again, I'm putting a very heavy bias on Fox Sports drilling that in that it's Luka Modric and Croatia. I was going to say Dejan Lovren, but we've known that he's sucked ass for years. So that's really not a surprise.
We talk about Mislav Orsic's goal in that game yesterday.
We can.
Little I don't know if it was a chipperoo or a finesse.
No, that's a R1 in circle right
just
there,
dude. Just a one time.
Yep.
Oh, bins. Oh God. That was so good.
That was such a good hit.
So I was just doing some looking for the record. I just wanted to see if anyone had a worst 11 article out there, because I know a lot of people do best of the tournament, and I found one. The sportsman.com has their worst 11. Would you like me to read it to you guys to see?
Yes.
So goalie, they have Unai Simeone from Spain.
Yeah.
Right back, Danny Carvajal.
Actually, I will argue the keeper. Who is the Canadian keeper?
I think you got to measure it though based on who's around him.
No, he fucked up so many times just trying to kick the ball out.
Fair.
He was piss poor. So I will amend that. I will say the Canadian goalkeeper. But go on, Parks.
Okay. So Danny Carvajal is the right back. Center back, Eder Militao. Other center back, Christian Romero. Left back, Nicholas Tagliafico from Argentina.
Tagliafico.
Thank you.
Tagliafico from Argentina. That's a
Yeah.
And Romero from Argentina. Okay.
Yeah.
And a central midfielder from Argentina, Papu Gomez.
Yeah. I can.
Yeah, that one I'm okay with.
I just thought it was funny that three. There's another Argentine on here later. Central midfielder, Yusuf Fofana. Central midfielder, Remo Freuler from Switzerland. Right winger, Steven Bergwijn from the Netherlands.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Left winger, Kingsley Coman from France. They have like associated rankings with them. I don't know what rankings they must be their own like composite rankings. And then striker Lautaro Martinez from Argentina.
Oh yeah,
Argentina.
I think I'm glad he was on there. That's the one thing I think should be taken away from this tournament is he had been hyped up as another $100 million striker. He had been hyped up as the, he's Rom's best friend. Like he's the best striking partner he's ever worked with and blah, 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 blah. He missed how many? He missed 2 wide open chances today to put the game away, I think. And just his tournament in general has been bad. And I think ultimately what you have to take away from it is Serie A is not, I don't know, maybe they're the 4th best league in Europe. Like he's not great, but he's good for Inter in Italy. So, yeah. Serie A is very mid.
I think we've seen that because Serie A stars don't translate well in other places. Yeah, that's been, I think, one of the biggest things we've noticed in the Premier League is people come over, granted with big price tags, but they come over because they boss the league and then they don't do shit when they come over to Chelsea or other places. It's not just Chelsea. So I think the German league is provided better talent from like a transfer perspective than Serie A has.
Well, speaking of German league, what we didn't talk about this week was Nkunku is finalized.
And Vardiol is pretty close.
No, latest I heard is now it's a bidding war between Manchester City and Real Madrid, like 130 mil.
Jesus Christ.
But I've also heard Todd Bowley is still in direct contact with Gvardiol's dad, who's his agent. So who knows?
All I keep hearing, man, is Chelsea is interested in about 74 players right now. So I can't keep up what level of interest and when and why. So
I like Makuku or whatever from Dortmund. He was on the German national team. He's 18 years old, striker. I like him. There's that Ivorian striker playing in Norway right now. Is he a Fofana? Yeah.
They're all Fofanas.
He's 21 years old, has like 35 goals and 37 appearances or something like that. I don't think he's a start day one when he gets here, but maybe go out on loan for a couple of years and then come back. I think that'd be a good one. Gvardiol is 20. Like, I think we're building for 4 years from now.
the best part about the Fofana news was that our we've got super Thomas Tuchel, that chant, and you name a player at the back and then a player in attack, and you can go Fofana at the back, Fofana in attack. Chelsea gonna win the Champions League.
Yeah, if we can get Fofana on the pitch.
No, he's
Which one?
back.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Hold on, give me a second.
So is Reese, by the way.
Yeah.
He was training. God, that was so great to see.
Yeah, it's dude. If we can stay healthy, like that's one thing. Like we're just not a deep team. That's the issue. But you get all the starters out there, and we're fine.
I just don't. We're not a cohesive team. Yeah. We're a collection of people's laundry. We're not a cult. Like we're just like each person's who does who buy and how do they fit together. We're not like a curated team yet.
Well, and I think we saw the same thing that we saw last year, and that was Reese and Chills are so crucial to what we do, and they both go down, and then you're fucked.
Right.
So hopefully,
It's
with
just-
them both coming back, be all right.
Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know a lot of things. I don't know how we're gonna play. I don't know where we're gonna get goals. I don't know if Christian's either gonna like go back into Project Restart Christian or get sold. Like there's no middle ground.
Yeah. I think that I don't know.
He's gonna get sold. He's gone.
I think they would be dumb to sell both Ziyech and Pulisic in January if there's not replacements coming.
Totally. But I have to believe that there are.
I don't know. There's a lot of media talk of Pulisic wants out and he's not happy and all that, but there's a lot of those guys like Simon Johnson and Matt Law and like the guys who are close to the club who say like, dude, he loves it. He loves it at Chelsea. He loves being in London. He loves his teammates. Like he's happy. Him and Boley get along real well.
I think he's good at playing a part for playing a face, like not stirring the pot and not like being a guy who's pissed off and wants to leave. Like it's kind of a look, just bide your time. We'll find you a way out. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
Completely speculating based on nothing, but it's like bide your time. We'll get you out. We'll work out a deal. Just don't like badmouth the club and we'll be fine. And he's a professional about that, which like I mean, we live in an age where bad mouthing the club is more the common or more the norm,
Right.
almost in these situations. And like me personally, like that's how I would handle it, right? In my work or my life, I would be like, nope, things are great, life's great, everything's fine, working together, and then I'd be like, but how are we getting out of this, right?
Right.
That's just how I think of the world.
Well, I mean, we got if the rumors are sticking around about Leao. If you can get Rafael Leao, like then I think he's a very similar player to Pulisic, but better. Like
he's better,
wouldn't-
but he's more mercurial. Like he's more high-low. You got to deal with more of an ego, more of a temperament, more of a personality, more of an ego.
Yeah, I mean, I'd take
But he's
it.
better. I don't know. I mean, I am not disagreeing. Like it's just a added complexity. And look, you watch any documentary on the greats, the great teams, guys like Dennis Rodman who play fucking roles on teams that can be managed by Phil and teammates, even though he's going to go to Vegas on a whim on a Tuesday to go
Right.
drink and bang hookers and shit. Like that's what he does. But if you can find a way to like work with him and figure shit out with him, it's worth it. Like those things happen in the world, and I'm fine with it if you play a role and you can get it done on the pitch.
Yeah, I agree. I'm fine with that.
But the second it goes south in a hurry, right? Like it goes bad quick.
Man, I don't know if we've seen that out of Leao though. Like, granted, I don't follow Serie A a whole ton, but like I haven't seen any stories over the last couple of years of like him causing problems at Milan.
But it's Milan. It's a theater league.
Yeah, true.
And to be fair, it's my same issue with Ronaldo.
Jesus, here we go.
No, I'm just saying it. Like Parker, the point that you brought up, it's my same issue. Like he tears down clubs. That's what he does. Yes, can he score goals? Absolutely. But look at the clusterfuck that he's just gone through. And you want to bring something like that to a new ownership group, a brand new regime that we're trying to build something off of. You want to bring in a cancer like that No,
Are you saying Rafael Leao tears down clubs?
no.
Okay, because just like
No.
Mbappe,
Yeah,
he's 23. Like he has not torn down anything.
I thought that was the comparison you were making, Matt.
Yeah. No, we lost Matt. But
Sorry,
Leao?
boys.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. Wife is going to work right now.
Okay. Well, Leao's played for 3 clubs. Sporting in Portugal, which they just sell all their young players, like, and then they move on, they're fine. He played
Yep.
1 season at Lille in France.
Lille.
Yeah, in Liga. And then AC Milan bought him for 35 mil, and he's been there for 3 years.
Yeah, I think Leao can be checked, and I think like the reality of going to the Premier League like will check your ego. So I'm not too worried about him dealing with him, and I don't know. He's young. I think his ego can get checked, and I think like sometimes it's a good thing for those younger players to have their ego checked, and he still can work with them and get a lot out of them, or not, right? I mean, it's kind of either happens or doesn't, and you have to kind of put it through the test to figure it out.
Right. But I think for sure, I mean, because again, a lot of smoke around him, and Kunku is coming. Like one of Havertz, but probably multiple of Havertz, Ziyech, Pulisic, they've got to be gone.
I almost said Timo, and then I realized, oh shit, he already is gone.
I mean, and Mason Mount is refusing to sign a new deal. Maybe he's going. Like, I don't know.
I'm actually like, I know a lot of people would disagree with that, but if Mason Mount walks over money, he's an idiot, and let him go.
Agreed. Although Juventus want him, so.
But if they like, I get why Mount wants his money because he sees everyone else getting paid, and if the only way to get paid is to leave, then you have to go leave to get paid. Like, I get it,
Right.
but I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's not going to be enough money to go around. There's not going to be enough playing time to go around, and especially now talking about Juve, shit, you might have Chiesa coming in, you might have Vlahovic coming in. Like,
Yeah,
where do you play all these guys?
I'm all potted out.